Aujourd'hui, nous accompagnons une dizaine
Today, we support a dozen associations
qui agissent
that are
concrètement
taking
sur le
concrete
terrain,
action on the ground
dans divers endroits du monde,
in various parts of the
chacune à sa
world
manière, autour des
in their own way
multiples
around the
dimensions
multiple
justement de
dimensions of
l'adaptation du
adaptation to the
climatique.
climate environment.
Donc, vous les
Therefore,
connaissez sans doute, ces
you are
multiples
probably
dimensions,
familiar with these
restauration
multiple
d'habitats marins,
dimensions: restoration of marine
biodiversité,
habitats,
forêt, éducation,
biodiversity,
ou
forests,
encore justice
education, or
climatique.
climate justice.
Ce soir, nous avons souhaité
This
mettre à
evening,
l'honneur leur
we
travail
wanted to honor their
remarquable
remarkable work by
en leur
giving
donnant la
them the
parole.
floor.
Après avoir mis au débat dans cette même salle l'année
After
dernière
having debated
la
food
résilience
resilience in this
alimentaire
same
et
room
l'année
last year and water
précédente
management the year
la gestion
before,
de l'eau, nous avons décidé ce soir
we
de
have
donner
decided this
la
evening to
parole
give the
au
floor to the
thème de la
theme of the
forêt.
forest,
Donner la parole à la forêt, je veux
giving
dire.
a voice to the
La
forest.
forêt
I
comme
mean,
écosystème vivant,
the
comme source
forest as a living
d'inspiration,
ecosystem,
mais
as a
aussi
source of
comme miroir de
inspiration,
nos
but
imaginaires
also as a
et de
mirror
nos
of our
contradictions
imaginations and
aussi
our
parfois.
contradictions sometimes.
Mais avant de plonger dans cet
But before
univers,
diving into
je
this
vous
universe,
propose de visionner ensemble
I
une
suggest
courte
you watch
vidéo
together
qui
a short
raconte que nous
video that
faisons à
tells
la
us what we do with
Fondation
the foundation
et pourquoi nous croyons profondément
and
à
why
la
we deeply believe in the
force de ces
strength of
actions
these
collectives.
collective actions.
La Fondation Egis, c'est le lieu d'expression des engagements du groupe, au-delà de ses métiers. Son but, c'est de soutenir des démarches portées par des acteurs de l'économie sociale et solidaire, là où se jouent des transitions face au changement climatique. Et aussi, d'amplifier ou donner vie à ces projets qui manquent parfois de visibilité.
Nous avons choisi de faire de l'adaptation climatique la thèse centrale de la Fondation. Ce sont d'abord des conséquences directes sur la vie des populations. Notre mission est d'aider les plus vulnérables à faire face en menant deux batailles de front, celle de la décarbonation et celle de la résilience. Ce qui rend la Fondation unique, c'est la force de son collectif. Un conseil d'administration engagé, des partenaires associatifs ancrés sur le terrain, une équipe opérationnelle dédiée et un réseau de plusieurs centaines de volontaires issus du groupe Egis qui s'impliquent avec conviction.
Nous agissons dans 5 domaines d'impact. L'adaptation au changement climatique, la réduction des émissions de gaz à effet de serre, la protection de la biodiversité, la transition juste pour les populations les plus vulnérables et des actions de sensibilisation et d'éducation.
Nous structurons notre action autour de 2 axes principaux. Le premier, c'est le soutien financier dans la durée, destiné à des projets locaux menés par des ONG, avec une vraie proximité et une mesure de l'impact pour progresser. Le deuxième axe est d'inspirer un élan collectif à travers des actions de sensibilisation, comme notre challenge international Team Up for Climate.
La jeune génération incarne un immense potentiel d'innovation. Team Up for Climate réunit près de 2000 étudiants chaque année pour imaginer des solutions d'adaptation. Et si notre impact est si fort, c'est aussi grâce aux 220 collaborateurs d'Egis, investis comme mentors ou dans les comités d'évaluation des projets. Au-delà de l'accompagnement financier et du mentorat, les projets lauréats du challenge font l'objet d'une résidence d'artistes. Les œuvres, créées à partir de ces projets, sont exposées lors de la Biennale Photoclimat à Paris, l'un des nombreux moyens de sensibiliser et d'inciter au passage à l'action.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Merci à Clara, à Amandine, à Adèle,
Thank
et
you
à
to
tous
Clara,
ceux qui participent
Amandine,
de près ou de loin,
and all those who
à cette
participate
action
directly or
collective qu'est la
indirectly in
Fondation.
this collective action that is
Oui,
the
notamment au
foundation,
niveau réussite opérationnelle.
especially in terms of operational
Une
success.
pensée également pour Martine Joroyon, présidente de la Fondation, qui n'a pas pu être parmi nous ce soir. Et
A
que
thought also
beaucoup
for
d'entre vous
Martine
connaissent.
Joroyan, president of the
Dans la
foundation, who
continuité
was
de son
unable to be with
engagement,
us this evening and whom many
la
of you know.
dynamique se poursuit et s'amplifie.
In
Nous
line
venons
with its
d'obtenir
commitment,
le
the
renouvellement
momentum
de
continues
l'engagement
and
de notre
grows.
fondateur Laurent Germain,
We have just obtained the renewal of the commitment of our founder Laurent Germain, who has decided to double our endowment from 2026. This is a strong signal of confidence and ambition for the foundation. And now, before giving way, quickly, I'm sorry for the delay, but before giving way to the roundtable, I'd like to invite Nicolas, Henry, and Mathilde Fanet to join me to talk to you about our partnership with Photoclimat.
Merci. Allez, alors Nicolas, peut-être on va commencer par toi. Ouais, est-ce que tu peux nous parler un petit
So
peu de
Nicolas,
Photoclimat,
maybe
comment
we'll
il est
start
né,
with you. Can you tell us a little bit about Photoclimat? How did Photoclimat come about? We are at the third edition of this biennial, so it's been 5 years. We are still a very young festival. But you can find us this year all over the Place de la Concorde, the Quai de Seine, the Climate Academy. So in all, we have 45 exhibitions that are implemented in the public space. We also have Rouen.
dont le cahier des charges, c'est d'avoir des fondations ou des ONG
whose specifications are to have foundations or NGOs with artists who present us with stories of general interest.
Et ce qui est très innovant et spécifique à notre action,
And what is very innovative and specific to our action is that we have, for example, this year 16,
s'intéresser à des projets,
commissions to artists who will take an interest in projects and put them forward and disseminate them to the public.
Et donc on a à la fois un potentiel de visiteurs
And
très
so we have a
important
very
parce qu'il y a-
significant
ils
potential
estiment
for
à plus de
visitors
5 millions de
because there is
personnes
an
qui
estimate
passent
of
dans
more
les
than 5
installations,
million
qui restent
people who
pendant,
pass through the
un mois à
installations
5
since we
semaines, en
stay
fait,
for a
dans
month
cet
to
espace
5 weeks in
parisien.
fact in this Parisian space.
Et puis, de l'autre côté, on a tout un programme de
And then on the other
conférences,
side,
de
we have a
récits
whole program
ensemble.
of
Ce
conferences,
soir, on est là,
stories
c'est
together
très
tonight we are
émouvant.
there.
Il y a aussi
It's
Action
very
contre
moving.
la faim qui est aussi ici, avec une soirée. Alors, la rencontre avec Egis, là, il y a plein d'émotions pour plusieurs raisons. C'est que
With an evening and the meeting
Photoclimat
with
s'est ouvert le même
EGIS,
jour que
there are a
l'Académie
lot
du
of
Climat.
emotions
Et
for
donc,
several
la
reasons.
directrice est
It's
venue
that
me voir et
Photoclimat
puis on s'est
opened on the
retrouvés
same
dans la
day as the
galerie en
Climate
bas,
Academy,
c'était
and so the
super bien.
director came
Ça,
to
c'est
see
la
me, and
première
suddenly we found
émotion.
ourselves in the gallery
D'autre part,
downstairs where we saw
donc
each
c'est un
other
lieu que j'aime
earlier.
beaucoup.
So that's a
D'autre
first
part,
emotion.
en fait, il y a la
It's a
fidélité
place that I
d'Egis que
really
je voulais
like.
remercier, puisque en fait, on a déjà pu faire 3 résidences avec des artistes.
On the other hand, there is the loyalty of the
différents,
GIS,
des
whom I would
écritures
like
un peu
to thank,
extraordinaires.
since
Donc,
we have
c'est très
already been
courageux
able
sur
to
le
do 3
positionnement
residencies
artistique
with
qui,
different artists and
va
writing that
vraiment
is a little
d'une manière
extraordinary.
exemplaire dans l'innovation. Et puis,
It's
la
very
troisième chose,
courageous
c'est que
in
du coup,
terms
j'ai-
of
j'étais,
artistic positioning,
avec
which
une
I
image
think
que
is
vous voyez
really
là-bas, j'étais
exemplary
le
in terms
premier
of
auteur,
innovation.
parce que je suis photographe,
And
à
then,
faire
the
la
third thing
résidence.
is, suddenly,
Et donc,
I was, with an image like you
après
see
la
there,
deuxième
I was the
édition de
first
Photoclimat,
author,
j'ai
since I am a
voyagé dans pas mal
photographer,
de pays
to
pour
do the
voir des projets
residency.
concrètement sur le terrain,
in concrete
comme
terms
ceux que vous
on the
financez.
ground,
Et,
such as
du
those
coup,
you
j'ai pu faire
finance.
quelques
And
photos
so I
avec
was
les
able to
lauréats,
take some
donc
photos with
comprendre
the
avec,
winners.
voilà, ces images
So
que vous voyez
understand
là-bas,
with these images that you
avec
see there,
notamment, un récit dans le
including a
delta du
story
Mékong
in the
avec, des
Mekong
jeunes
Delta
femmes qui ont réussi
with young
à
women
mettre,
who
faire un
have
petit
succeeded.
logiciel pour connaître les
We
taux de
made a small
salinisation, en
software
fait,
to know
des
the
cultures et
salinization
sauver les
rates of
cultures pour les
crops
paysans.
and save
Donc,
crops
c'est ces
for
jeunes femmes qui
farmers.
sont représentées en
It was
photo,
these young women who
en
presented
branchant sur une
themselves in
station
photos
scientifique.
by
Donc,
plugging
en fait,
into a
c'était des
scientific
projets,
station.
qu'on
In
a
fact,
rencontrés
these
de
were
bon
projects
sens,
that we
un
encountered
peu,
in common sense.
voilà, assez extraordinaires.
And then,
Et puis,
there is another
il y a un
moment
autre
of
moment
emotion,
d'émotion, c'est que quand je m'étais
which is
retrouvé
that
au
when I
jury,
found
moi, je suis
myself on the
artiste,
jury,
tout d'un coup, j'avais des
I was an
ingénieurs,
artist.
on a
I had
des spécialistes
engineers,
qui sont ici, d'ailleurs, dans
specialists
cette
who are
salle,
here in
des
this room,
rapporteurs qui nous expliquaient en fait,
rapporteurs
ces
who
projets
explained these
d'ingénierie
environmental
environnementale,
engineering
donc des projets
projects to
très
us.
précis de transformation.
So very
Et je trouvais que
specific
c'était,
transformation
très
project.
en
And I
lien
found
avec
that
ce
it was
qu'on
very
porte dans
much in line with what we
Photoclimat,
are doing in
des
Photoclimat,
solutions
which is
positives.
to have positive
On
solutions.
porte aussi les
We also
mouvements
support
citoyens,
citizen
comme dans le
movements
fait qu'en
such
France,
as,
on est une
and
personne
so
sur
by
quatre
getting
après 16 ans qui est
together,
bénévole dans une
by
association.
creating,
Et donc en se
by
mettant
innovating,
ensemble, en créant,
in
en
fact,
innovant,
you
en
can
fait, on peut
transform
transformer
your
sa vie
life
et être
and be
extrêmement
extremely
heureux et en même
happy
temps,
and at the same
porter des
time
solutions
to
et
provide
concrètement agir
solutions
pour transformer.
and
Et ça, c'est
concretely
ce qu'on a
act
beaucoup
to
rencontré,
transform. This
dans
is what
cette
we have
nouvelle
encountered a
association.
lot in these
C'est ce qu'on essaie de
association
mettre en
projects,
valeur à travers
and this is what
toute
we
la
are trying to
les
highlight.
80 sans associations qui sont
The
présentées
80
dans
without
tout le festival avec
associations
leurs
that are
récits et
presented
avec leur
throughout the
innovation.
festival with their stories and innovations.
And so can you tell us a little bit about the residency? Well, you've already talked a little about it for Team Up for Climate, in which Mathilde, you participated this year. Maybe you two can tell us a little bit. So you talked about the jury. Did you, Mathilde, talk to you about it too?
Afterwards, we proposed different artists, including Mathilde. I think we should see the images soon. What was interesting was to be immersed, us, as artists. We tried to have innovative writing, to raise awareness and promote the public, to give them access to a story. Mathilde, who is our Benjamin of the Biennial, made us a project. I don't know if we can see it.
All the later, you must. No, it's after.
There is the Camille Garby project, which was the second residency where she stayed in Paris, and she set up quite symbolic projects around the stories. Fertilizers that are in fact organic as part of an association project. And in a symbolic way, she actually tells us, Camille, the story of the associations there with floating cities in places where there are floods. She stayed in Paris to tell us the phenomena and tell us this story. She asked for letters from the project leaders who wrote in their native language about each of the ideas that are carried by the associations.
You can move on to Mathilde's photos. Let us see them, since this year it's the one after again. I'm going
Let Mathilde introduce.
It was also a challenge for me to put the three winners of the challenge into images. I have a mainly artistic practice of self-portraiture, and I decided to insert these three projects into my practice in order to evoke these issues. It was not so much to illustrate the response that these students had, but rather to really evoke the basic ecological problem. There is also water pollution, water that is not clean in India, and also the issue of health. I don't know how to say this, but the air. This is not very breathable in Uzbekistan because of the salt and dust.
a drying up of the Aral Sea, and that we will see later, since the second part of the evening, the prizes will be awarded to the winners. We wanted to honor you and thank you, because it's really a partnership that is particularly close to my heart. It's important for the foundation to convey our messages differently. Thank you. This exhibition, with the 18 photos of our 3 residences, is still visible until Sunday.
See one shortly after.
You are generous.
Come see her. She will delight you.
Thank you again. Thank you for your partnership, your trust, and all your creativity.
We also had a beautiful exhibition at the University of the Earth. There is one of the photoclimate criteria, eco-design. What we have is to shoot the exhibitions. It was a rather extraordinary event of meetings in the middle of all these conferences with these great specialists who were speaking.
Thank you both.
So, our round table is entitled Forests, Changing Imaginations and Putting an End to the Myth of Reforestation, How to Reconcile Action and Patience in a World, which goes too fast. You know more or less what I'm talking about. So this time, I invite Marie Forêt to come and join me, please. Thank you. I can take this microphone. Thank you.
Bonsoir. Ça marche.
Good evening.
Walking.
I'll let you speak. Listen. I'll let you leave the tray. Okay, thank you. I'm Marie Forêt, and I'm an ecologist, an ecological redirection consultant, and I'm going to talk to you about forests. I am really very happy to be with you this evening to lead this roundtable organized by the Egis Foundation and in connection with the Photoclimat Biennial. The Egis Foundation, as we saw in the film previously, she acts on the subject of forestry by supporting projects in favor of forests. And she recently chose to become a member of a coalition of patrons who act for French forests. After 2 years of work by sponsors, about 25 sponsors, in conjunction with NGOs close to the field, a coalition was created. The objective of these funds and foundations is to better direct their support to forestry projects of general interest. The strategy was really built on feedback from the field. I participated in the construction of this coalition, and today I am its coordinator. I will just give a few facts about the coalition. The coalition wants to support, finally, to strengthen the impact of its members' actions of general interest in favor of French forests, the biodiversity they shelter, their virtuous management, and the professionals who work there. It's a truly global vision of the forest. In particular, it affirms in its strategy its support for forest management that favors the mixing of species, the presence of trees of different ages with an ever-present cover, and by limiting the use of planting and clear-cutting as much as possible. In somewhat specialist terms, we speak of continuous cover mixed silviculture, SMCC. It is in fact a very strong choice of the coalition to avoid simplistic and in fact purely utilitarian approaches to the forest. These are engaging choices, and this structuring of funds and foundations is a signal of the evolution of the implications for the forest. It is also a signal of the way in which the subject is grasped, and to want to support projects that are truly of general interest and that address the forest in all its dimensions. In short, an evolution of the imaginaries of the forest. So, I'm going to talk a little bit more before I bring you on stage. And I'm going to suggest that you take a little walk in the forest, close your eyes, to sit comfortably in your chairs and breathe. I suggest that you imagine your forest and think about what it evokes in you, to its color or its colors, to walk and hear the sounds of this forest, or without silence. But is it really silence, the smells of the air, the smells carried by the wind? Maybe sensations if you touch a bark, a stone, or if you pick a flower. And maybe even the water comes to your mouth with its smells, with what you pick up in it. There you are, each and every one of you in your own forest. You can come back. We're not going to walk around for too long. Slowly open our eyes and then come back here to the Climate Academy. Thank you for this walk. It would be really nice to be able to share what you have seen. We don't have time. Maybe afterwards, over a drink, we'll have the opportunity to talk. What each and every one of you has seen and felt in this forest.
Alors, comment décrire les forêts?
So, how to describe forests to save them? You have to plant trees. Are the stakes the same here? In Madagascar? In Indonesia?
Comment agir sur les forêts?
How to act on forests in the long term, but with a world that is accelerating, how to take into account the long term of forests. To talk about the theme tonight, changing the forest imagination and putting an end to the myth of reforestation, I invite you, Andrea, Christophe, Evrard, to come and talk to me.
Alors, on a autour de la table.
So we have around the table, around the piece of wood in front of us, a beautiful piece. Must have been a large tree of a good diameter already. Andrea Mantovani, you are a photographer. Delighted. Yes. Good evening.
Evrard,
Good evening, everyone. Evrard, so I'm going to say it in the order that you're sitting. Christophe, that's
Good
it,
evening
all.
Geologist.
You are a geotechnical geologist and you work at Egis. Correct. And then Evrard Wendenbaum. Good evening.
Naturevolution.
You are the founder of the NGO Naturevolution, supported by Regis and current director of the association.
Voilà, rapidement, je vous passe
That's
la
it
parole
quickly.
peut-être pour que
I'll
vous
give you the floor
présentiez plus.
perhaps
Andrea,
so that you can
je vais
present
commencer
more.
Par toi.
Andrea,
Tu es photographe.
I started with you.
Tu as écrit
You're a
un
photographer.
livre,
You wrote a
vous
book.
avez,
Well, you have...
oui,
yes, you are the co-author of the book Sans Forester with Beatrice Morissa about the forest of Belovieja. Who are you?
Bonsoir Marie.
Good evening,
Lorsque tu
Marie.
m'as envoyé cette question,
When you sent me
qui
this
es-tu,
question,
c'est assez vaste, hein.
who
Je suis
are
toujours dans
you?
cette réflexion,
It's
d'ailleurs.
quite vast.
Qui suis-je?
I'm still thinking
Mais,
about it.
si je,
Who
si
am
je
I?
pouvais me
But if I could
définir à peu
define
près en
myself
deux,
in
trois
about
mots,
2-3
je pense que je
words,
suis,
I think I am.
au-delà d'être photographe,
Beyond
c'est pas
being a
quelque chose qui me
photographer,
définit en
it's
soi.
not something that
Je pense que je
defines
suis
me in
quelqu'un de
itself.
profondément curieuse
I think I'm a deeply
et
curious
aussi une
person
hypersensible.
and also
Alors,
a
les deux
hypersensitive
cumulés,
one.
ça a fait de moi une enfant qui était
So the
très
two combined,
intéressée par
it
le
made me
vivant,
a child
le
who was
non-humain
very
et
interested
l'humain.
in the living,
Voilà.
the
Alors pour
non-human
ça, j'ai poursuivi
and the human. To
des
do
études de
this,
géographie
I
pour
studied
travailler dans
geography
l'environnement,
to
pour
work
travailler
in
proche
the
de la nature.
environment, to
Et puis
work
après, j'ai
close
trouvé
to
bon
nature.
de faire de l'environnement en
And then I found it
entreprise.
good to do corporate
Chez Kingfisher,
environment at
donc, dans le
Kingfisher.
monde du bricolage.
So in the
Complètement autre chose.
DIY world,
Et puis j'ai
something
découvert
completely
tardivement
different.
la
And then I
photographie
discovered
vers l'âge de
photography
25
late
ans.
in life at
Et
the
je
age
suis
of
tombée dans un
25.
pot à confiture, comme on
And I
dit.
fell into a jam jar,
J'ai
as
découvert
they say.
des personnes qui
I
voyaient le
discovered
monde comme moi,
people who saw the
en tant
world
que
like I did, as a
hypersensible. Je suis
hypersensitive
aussi très
person.
contemplative. Et j'ai
I'm
trouvé la
also
meilleure
very
excuse pour
contemplative,
contempler le monde,
and I found
c'est
the
d'être
best
avec un appareil
excuse
photo.
to contemplate the world.
Et,
It's being
et donc de
with the
là, j'ai
camera.
quitté le monde de
From
l'entreprise pour me
there,
lancer en tant que
I left the
reporter.
corporate world
Donc
to
je
start
suis
as a reporter.
partie pendant
I was
5 ans,
gone for 5 years,
à la fois couvrir des communautés
at the same
marginalisées,
time, covering
en Jamaïque, aux
marginalized
États-Unis,
communities
au Canada,
in
au
Jamaica,
Mexique
the
beaucoup.
United States, Canada, Mexico, and many
J'aime
others.
les invisibles, je pense. Et
I
puis
like the
j'ai
invisible, I think.
fait un dernier saut dans la
And then
jungle
I
en
made a
Chiapas, où
last
j'ai
jump
habité.
into the jungle in
Et là, ça a été
Chiapas,
la
where I
nature qui est
lived.
revenue à moi, un autre monde
And
des
then
invisibles qui
it was
m'a
nature that
amené
came back
ensuite
to
dans la
me.
forêt
Another world of the
biovieja, dont on
invisible that
parlera
then
un peu
brought
en
me to the
détail,
port of
où j'étais
Bio
partie pour
Vieja,
2 semaines
which we will
et je
talk
suis restée
about
vivre
in a
8
little
mois.
detail. I was gone
Voilà,
for 2 weeks and stayed for 8 months. I live where I work, but it's the places that also choose me in the end.
Donc je pense que je suis
So I think
aussi
I'm
une
also a
grande
big
passionnée,
passionate,
si
if I
j'arriverais
could
à
define
me
myself.
définir. Voilà, passionnée du vivant.
There you have it.
Merci d'avoir
Passionate
relevé le
about the
défi
living.
de répondre à
Thank
cette
you for
question.
pointing
The
out.
challenge of answering
Je vais,
this question.
Evrard, je vais te demander
Evrard,
à toi
I'm going
aussi
to
de te
ask you to
présenter.
introduce
Tu es donc
yourself
le
too.
fondateur de Naturevolution.
So you are the founder of Naturevolution.
Bonsoir à tous. Je vais
Well,
peut-être
good evening, everyone.
un petit peu plus en face du public. Oui, moi je suis quoi? Je suis scientifique de formation.
I'm a scientist
le monde
by
scientifique
trade,
n'a
but
pas
the
exactement répondu à mes
scientific
aspirations de
world
défense de
did not
l'environnement,
meet
aspirations que
my
j'avais depuis tout
expectations
petit,
regarding protection
envie
of the
d'agir
environment.
sur
Ever
ce
since I
sujet-là.
was a kid, I
Et
wanted to
donc
do
j'ai quitté
something
la science
useful, so
après avoir tenté
I
quelques
left
expériences
science,
là-dedans, et je me suis
having
lancé
made a
plutôt dans un
few
monde qui avait absolument rien à voir, mais qui était le monde de l'image, un peu
endeavors in that
à
field
l'image de
to
ce
do
que
something
Andrea
else.
vient
I
de dire. Moi, j'ai
mean,
travaillé
in
comme
line with what
photographe,
Andrea did,
comme
I also
réalisateur de documentaires
decided to
pendant
work as a
quelques années,
photographer, as
jusqu'à
a
trouver
documentary
parmi les
filmmaker.
différents
And
territoires que
and
j'ai
then
eu la chance
I
d'explorer,
was fortunate to
un lieu qui m'a
trade the
plus
world and
fasciné-
discover places. And
fasciné
one
que les
place
autres
that
peut-être, et puis
fascinated
surtout
me
qui m'a touché
probably more
profondément,
than
et qui
others,
était en voie de disparition,
a place that
on va
was
dire,
on
en
the
tout
way
cas en voie de
out.
dégradation
There
avancée,
was a
qui
vanishing
s'appelle le
place.
massif du Macaï,
It's
qui se
the
situe au sud-ouest de
Macaï
Madagascar.
Mountains in the
Et
southeast of
ça a été
Madagascar. And for me,
je vais dire la goutte d'eau qui a fait déborder le vase de ma colère intérieure, on va dire, de voir le monde s'étioler, s'effilocher, se fragmenter.
It was the final stroke. I saw the world collapsing right there, and that's what prompted me to create this association. To protect that mountain, and I was very much fascinated by lost universes or places where no one wants to go because it's too remote and too difficult to get to. And so I took an interest in another spot located on the southeast branch of the Sulawesi island in Indonesia, and I'm still working there. So we work there all year round, and we're trying to protect the largest primary forest of the island of Sulawesi. It's more than 5,000 square kilometers, and we want to turn this into a large protected area. This is, we want to turn this into a national park. It will be the largest such national park in Indonesia. It's ambitious, but we're trying to do it. Right, and then to complete presentations, we have Christophe Gérardin. You work for Egis, and so here we are talking about forests, and what are you doing here? Yes, that's a good question. I said I joined the round table, and I'm the odd man out, aren't I? And this is because I'm in an ambiguous position. On the one hand, we build infrastructure, and so that means deforestation, and that's not very good. And I live in Grenoble, in a mountain area. I like to walk in forests up on the mountain, but also in my position as director of Egis on the board of directors, of course, I get paid for this, but I decided to do something. So I took a look at the Egis Foundation. I thought they had a small budget, so I'm glad that Laurent decided to double the allowance to the Egis Foundation. I decided to chip in with my own money. Anyway, we came to an agreement, decided to work on a project related to the forest, and they supported Cœur de Forêt. This is an NGO with a project here in France, and they decided to fund and sponsor that project. Right, well, so 3 different approaches, isn't it, with all 3 of you. Christophe, what is Cœur de Forêt? I mean, what's the project? What is it you're trying to do? Well, Cœur de Forêt, this association, this NGO, is coming of age. It's 20 years old, as it were. When we met them, what I found remarkable was that they wanted to bridge the gap, as it were, between social justice, environmental justice. But I mean, this sounds a bit crazy, but working with small landowners and help them manage forests, and so they own a piece of land, and instead of managing the forest as a piece of property, they want to manage it as a living environment. So that project is supported by the foundation, and so Cœur de Forêt is not just in France, is it? It's also working outside. Yes, well, we are in Madagascar and other parts of the world, but I was keen to do this in France. Why support a project here in France? Well, I'm supposed to represent the French employees of Egis, so that sort of makes sense. And I also want to have a local impact. And so if you want to do anything local, well, initially you start small, but this can expand. You can get broader, and but it's true that for me it's easier to work from the southwest France than Madagascar because I have a foothold. But having said that, how shall I put it? Instead of looking at things globalization, just stay in France rather than. I mean, I have nothing against Madagascar. Don't get me wrong, and I NGOs, but maybe we can work closer together. Yes, on a sort of more human scale rather than looking at this sort of global scale, which is sort of out of reach. Yes, of course, if something's close to home, that will be more relevant. But yeah, I can also look at something local elsewhere. Yes, well, that's an issue, isn't it? Because in different parts of the world, people have different representations of forests, and how can you bring them together? Anyway, what did this, in working with Cœur de Forêt, what did you learn, what did you get out of this? Well, I mean, it's tremendous, tremendously exciting. There's lots of energy, very positive. This is something I really enjoy. I mean, on a personal basis, I found it very stimulating. But then I learned that in France, 75% of woods of forest are privately owned. Would you believe it? I mean, I thought it would be a piece of forest would belong to the region or to the local authorities or something, but no. You have a couple of people, and in fact, you have lots of people who are small landowners who own pieces of forest, and you find that you'd be surprised how many people own a piece of forest, and so and sometimes they don't even realize that. I mean, it's a lot of people, 2 people out of 10, and they have no idea. They very often they leave the forest to their own devices. Now, you have people, I mean, looking at forestry, at forests and sampling data and stuff. And that joins my own trade as a technician. And we find that if you want to care for the forest, you don't necessarily need to replant trees. Forests tend to grow, but as carbon sinks, forests tend to shrink. That's ambiguous. I mean, it's the sort of thing I didn't know at all. But so there are these outward and inward movements. So in any case, you became involved with the forests and took a different look at them. Right, taking a different look at forests. Andrea, you went to Bielovaja. How did you end up there, of all places? Did you expect what you saw? I mean, clearly not, because you stayed much longer than you expected to.
Déjà, je vais peut-être présenter rapidement la forêt de Biaoveja.
Biaoveja is the name. Not everybody knows where it is.
Elle se situe donc à l'extrême est de la Pologne, entre la Pologne et la
easternmost part of Poland, between Poland and Belarus. And it's supposed to be the oldest, the most ancient forest in Europe. But it's a plain forest. You have other forests in Ukraine, Slovakia, Romania that are pretty old. But plain forests, most of these forests were deforested precisely in the Middle Ages for timber, to sell wood, to build ships or to use as fuel. But that forest is 10,000 years old. It goes back to the last
la forêt de chasse des tsars de Russie.
Glacial era, and it belonged. It was the hunting grounds of Russian tsars. So it's an elite thing, protected by the dynasties that wanted to keep it for their own purposes, and it was sacralized, as it were. It belonged to these elites. It straddles Poland and Belarus. It's about 100 kilometers in Poland, but 1,100 square kilometers in Belarus. To give you an idea of that forest, Białowieza. Structurally, it's like an egg. The yolk of the egg is inside, and that's a strict reserve. You're not allowed in. You can't go in by yourself. You need to go there with a guide. It is forbidden to tread inside. You can be fined. So the yolk
des zones également protégées, donc
so protected areas, and then you have areas around Natura 2000 where you can walk around, but there are rules. You're not allowed to pick up things from the ground. You can't pick flowers. You can do.
Des crânes, il y a souvent des os.
Or there you'll find human remains or other bones you're not supposed to pick up. And then there's shells, also not just bones, because you have to remember. I mean, and that was my own representation of the forest. When I first came in, I thought, and that is the sort of what goes in your imagination. You find a remote forest, dark forest at the easternmost part of the continent. I didn't know Poland, so I had something very dark in mind, something uninhabited. But it turns out that in the white part of the egg, you have as many as 4 or 5 villages. Okay, they're small villages, but what I'm saying is that it's not the sort of wild forest, sort of jungle forest with no human population, dark and no, that forest, Biovieja, is a very complex place where you have stories and timelines crossing. You have the Russian guard of the Tsars, you have scientists, you have European scientists, you have filmmakers hiding away in their cabins in the woods. So you have, as I said, different timelines intertwined, as it were. And how should I put it? Different time scales on the same territory and therefore different stories happening at the same time at different paces. And that territory is where you find different representations of the forest or different approaches to the forest. So you have at Celia Bielowieża, you find the Polish government says the forest must serve some purpose. We must you must harvest timber, and then you have activists saying no, we should leave it alone. So you have opposing trends, and some people want to use it as a resource. I want to protect it. So anyway, when I discovered this forest, I was in the office of Le Monde newspaper, and I was selling an article about the Chiapas forest. And here you have people called iconographers. They choose pictures. And one of them asked me, "Do you know the forest of Biovieja?" I said, "No." And so he showed me 3 pictures. I said, "Wow, that looks great. That's the Jurassic Park." So anyway, and then in line with what you said, I found that there was a conflict there. The first, I mean, one of the worst conflicts of Eastern Europe, because the Polish government had started to cut down trees in the white part of the egg, as it were, because there's the Epicia scolitis. It's a disease that is due to climate change. And the Polish government, with the best of intentions, I mean, for politicians, they were trying to do the right thing. Don't get me wrong, but their idea was to chop down trees to prevent the propagation of that natural disease from tree to tree. And botanists, but also visitors, weekend goers, saw these big trucks coming to the woods, ready to chop down trees on a huge scale. It's quite impressive. And they decided to protect the area. I mean, they improvised this, but it was not. There's nothing political. There was no Greenpeace or WWF. This was a spontaneous movement to protect that area. They wanted to prevent the trucks from cutting down the trees. And they said, let's do something about this. Let's put an end to this. Anyway, so I went there. And that was the situation. And I went there with a group of Belgian naturalists. I looked them up on the internet because as a geographer, I didn't want to end up in the political part of the story, but I want to take a step back. And of course, I want to discover the forest on my own. And then try and look at the various stakeholders and what was going on to try and be able to tell the story. All right, there you have it. I hope I answered your question. So the different views of the world, different ways of loving the forest and getting the impression I was protecting the forest, but at the heart of it all was the forest itself.
So we'll get back to Bielowieża. I wanted to know, Evrard, how does this resonate for you? There's this idea of knowledge, protection. Can you tell us about the Mackay forests? There is an issue here to document the forests. It's not enough to preserve them when we prepare this roundtable. Can you tell us about this?
Alors, je reviens sur l'historique un petit peu de Naturevolution.
Tell you about our association, Naturevolution, our NGO. We are mostly interested in very remote places in the world in which people were never interested. I mean, people from our world. And we arrive there with almost no scientific data. We don't know anything about the biodiversity there. We don't know anything else. We don't know the history of human life there, of human settlements. We don't know anything. We start from scratch. The idea at the core of Naturevolution was to allow for scientists to go to these kind of places, to these very remote places where they couldn't go on their own, and we would give them the means to explore these territories and to bring some data back, as much data as possible, in order to then be able to demonstrate to a given government, for instance, in this case, the government of Madagascar, that they have in their country a real treasure, a jewel that they should absolutely protect. We started like this. We organized these for these scientists to collect all this data, and beyond the scientific data, there's something else. Scientific data is only valuable if it's known. It's not enough to bring scientists and to make a paper that will be read by 10 people, maybe. No, you need to put these works in value. You need to. There was a documentary which was done as well. So we brought teams to do a documentary in order to have a bigger value to the research. So we hoped for the government of Madagascar to then want to own this. When we give them the proof that there are thousands of species, and including endemic species, as Andrea said, it's looked like Jurassic Park. It's always a question of perception, but these perceptions play a big role in our will to protect this sense of wonder, for instance. So when we started by doing this, and then we realized that, of course, it wasn't enough, and it's almost there's almost no point if you're alone. Now, the government of Madagascar did not really take possession of this whole thing. We did many things. We did. We even did an exhibition, and it didn't change anything, and they continued to destroy the forest. So then we decided to try and change our association in a conservation NGO, but it wasn't our initial objective. Now we really try to do actions to protect the forest. To know is important, but not enough. Yes, I even said that it wasn't useful at all. Concretely, I now realize with the history, maybe it's a bit exaggerated to say that there's no point, but we spend a lot of money doing these expeditions, doing these documentaries, and in the end, it doesn't really help to protect the forest.
It's our energy which will protect the forest, our will, a small group of human beings who will try to mobilize other human beings which will try to do something good. Of course, a documentary can help, a book can help, an exhibition can help. However, it's not that useful when you think of all the energy you need to protect such a place. Andrea, I just wanted you to react on this idea. How can you give your testimony about these scientific knowledge? How can you transmit all this knowledge and these issues to be interested in these forests and to take action then to protect them? Marie, I really wanted to react to what you just said. And then I will answer your question, Marie. It's really, to me, rings a bell with what happened in Białowieża. I really believe in what you said. It's really the energy, these new alliances between human beings which will allow us to actually make a change. We, as artists, we support, we testify, so how do we transmit? I think we can tell a story. The story belongs to the past, but this alliance that we build, as an artist, I'm just there to tell a story. I use photography, I could also be a painter if I wanted to, but I'm just here to pass an emotion on. But let's get back to the importance of this bond between this bond which is more important than what is material. This is what we must insist on in our modern societies. This action to protect the Białowieża forest began in an improvised way. They first set a tent in a field, then they organized a squad in the local primary school. Then in the beginning 20 people were involved, and then it went up to 40, 50 people coming from many places, from France to Indonesia, even Germany, Italy, a lot of Polish people, of course. And it was a very democratic process. They were voting what they would do the following day. They didn't really have money, but sometimes you can do things with your intelligence. Humans are very intelligent, and two major actions were undertaken. In the morning, they would organize patrols with their GPS, and they would come back to where they were in the morning, and the 20 of them would wander in the forest, and thanks to the GPS, they would know what places were deforested, what trees were cut, and they were able to actually build a file for the European Court of Justice because they were able to compare where the trees were cut to the sites that were actually protected, that were Natura 2000 sites, for instance, and for instance where there was protected bird species that didn't have anywhere to go after the trees were cut. And I arrived in the forest in October 2016, if I'm not mistaken. In February 2017, a file was sent to the European Court of Justice. The European Commission went against the Polish government, and they won. This was the first environmental lawsuit where the people who defended the nature won. It was the first time, and now it's become a precedent. These actions, these massive actions to cut trees have an impact on the ecosystem of a forest. That was the first lawsuit, the first action, and then they actually organized blockades. They would At night, they would position themselves where the trees would be cut, and it would slow the actions. It wasn't, we didn't really hear about this in France, but it's really the most beautiful natural heritage we have in Europe. And although there was no communication around this, it still worked. So it's very important. I really wanted to echo what you said. I worked for Greenpeace. It's an NGO that I really like. I noticed that there was a lot of energy put for communication and less energy put to actions on the ground. Back in the day, there were big blockades or operations. Now everything is about the nice photo that will raise awareness on social media. But let's not forget that action in itself is the most important, and action is not necessarily the image. I shouldn't necessarily say it given the work I do, but really the most important is the action you do on the ground. Evrard, did you want to react? I wanted to ask you something. There's this issue around communication and preserving the forest. Isn't it all about planting trees, really? Of course, it all depends on the context. You asked me a question about Madagascar, but for Indonesia, I might give another answer. Now, the issue, just to give you an idea, there's 1 million hectares there. There's a mountain chain there, which is extraordinary. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. It looks a bit like the west of the United States, like a natural park there, but except it's a tropical, extraordinary biodiversity in the canyons. This forest is not as big as the forests that Andrea spoke about. It's more like small pockets which are insulated one from the other, and each of them has its own biodiversity. You might have one type of frog which will only be in one of the small parts of the forest, and you won't find it in the other part. So it's some sort of biodiversity laboratory. So it's really extraordinary. The thing is, as these forests are small and isolated one from the other, all you need is one intrusion from a group of human beings and the forest can disappear altogether. It can vanish, and that's actually what's going on. I won't give you all the reasons for this, but the main reason is food insecurity. Locally, with the demographics there, the lands that you can cultivate have become more and more scarce. There have been more and more famine. Of course, climate change as well. In this part of the Indian Ocean, there is less and less rain, so it's more and more difficult to cultivate rice, and people are in a fragile situation, and therefore they go to the forest to try and find the means to find something they can eat. And they would eat really almost anything. So first of all, they would try and eat the lemur monkeys, and they would also try and eat the palm trees and also the roots of the trees. So that's what's happening today. They eat the roots in these forests, and the easiest way to do that is to set the trees, set fire to the trees. There's one recent example. A year ago, we spent 3 weeks in a forest with our eco guards, and there was a group of 400 people from a neighboring village, and there was a problem with the rice as they cultivated, and there was sand that was there, and there was sand everywhere, and they couldn't eat anything for months. So the whole village moved towards the forest and was eating these roots, which I assure you are really awful. They have an awful taste. I wouldn't wish anyone to have to eat this. So you really need to understand that these people are in survival mode, and the forest disappeared in a few weeks. It was in a terrible state. So how to fight against this? Perhaps I gave too many details. We have to address the main issues that these communities face, for instance, food insecurity. So we need these people to be more resilient, to cultivate things which will grow when there isn't enough rain, and when the water from the rivers won't be enough to cultivate rice. And we want people to be able to live better, to have better access to health care, to education, to energy, to water, and food, of course. Now there's another lever, which is the economic lever. If people who come from these villages had the resources to buy rice, they wouldn't need to go to the forest. So we're trying to put in place some economic alternatives locally to allow these people to live and to allow them to have enough money to buy rice when they can't grow it. Problem is when you have when rice becomes scarce, it's scarce in the whole country, which multiplies by 3 or 4 the price of rice, which also increases food insecurity. The economic part is fundamental. Now there's a third lever on which we are working it's called the conservation lever, the more classic way. So we raise awareness, we also monitor the area. We have eco guards, 25 eco guards, which wander around the forest to guard the forest, and we need to continue doing scientific research to be able to target our priorities in terms of conservation. And another aspect, we are actually doing reforestation. It's not actually reforestation. I don't even like this the word. We do community planting. So it's not monoculture. These trees need to be useful to the local communities, to be able to heat themselves, to cook for plants, or to improve economic activities. This is not forests aimed at recreating biodiversity. It's more forests which are aimed at being useful to the local people, to preserve the other forests which haven't been yet impacted by human activities. Christophe, did you want to react to what was said? Would you like to tell us why the way you got interested in forests changed your perception of forests and of the world? Yes, I agree with what Andrea and Evrard said about this bond which is created when you go on site, on the field, and the bond you create with the forest. You need to visit them, you need to be in contact with the forest. And I want other people to do the same. It's difficult to get a small number of people to be interested in something, but then it multiplies. So, with regards to my perception, I'm a geologist, as I said. I tend to look at the soil rather than looking in the air. So more as a botanist. For instance, when I hear Andrea talk about photographies, well, I'm realizing I should look elsewhere than just the soil when I'm walking in the forest. You usually look down rather than up. Yes, I know when all these people protect the forests, they communicate on this. I'm thinking maybe I should stop looking at minerals. Of course, I'm interested in minerals, but they're not necessarily alive. Maybe I should be more interested in what surrounds me. I know that in Japan, there are doctors who tell their patients to walk in the forest, and the state will even reimburse these walks. I think that's a great idea, and I really agree with this perception. So anyway, we should go outside and look around us. Yes, go out alone, maybe with someone else. Then you can even start an NGO with 20, 50 people and try to do something positive for the forest and the climate. Well, the sense of wonder. Andrea, in your photographies, you use tales. I wanted you to talk about these fairy tales, these myths. Yes. When I went to the Białowieża forest, I intended to do a more classic classical documentary. And as I said, it's the most ancient forest in Europe. It looks like our forests. It's not up in the mountains. I'm sorry if someone lives in the mountains, but let's, for example, take the Fontainebleau, Rambouillet, Boulogne forest. It's plain. You have different structures there. You have swamps. I have never seen any swamps here in France. And then you will have a forest with very dense forest. When the trees die, all the roots create walls which are as big as what is behind me, and that's what makes it look a bit like Jurassic Park. And you're like an explorer. It's easy because it's not uphill. You're always in the forest. You never have a viewpoint from above. So I wanted to do this documentary, and when I realized that all the people I met, young foresters, there's an agroforestry there, and I spent 10 days with them. It's over 100 years old, this institution, and I was with all these young foresters in their Polish uniform, which were educated to think that if you want to protect the forest, you must act on the forest. And then all these people who were protecting the forest and doing these blocking actions and everything. And I was meeting all these characters, these stakeholders, all the values they hold, and I chose not to really to do a documentary. The thing is, I lived with them, and then I was able to create images that are real, but I was able to perhaps create a story with this. I was using the strength of symbol, according to Jung's collective consciousness. I used colors from fairy tales, for instance, the Petit Pousset from Charles Perrault. And now there's this activist which has is handcuffed, who is handcuffed. And I had this princess, a woman living alone in the forest without water, without electricity, who actually belonged to the Polish aristocracy. And she knows all about Polish cinema, but she also hunts wolves and doesn't have electricity in her home. Everything is lit with candles. I wanted to tell these stories, but it's not really about getting as much images as you can. With Instagram, you get 90 million images a day. So we're fed up with images. What we need is an actual story, how to feed our mind, our dreams, and to have a joy of creating something, although a tragedy is ongoing, to have a story which I don't know the end of, but remains very beautiful, and this sense of wonder, as I said. We could go on, and I have really a lot of questions to ask, but I think our part is coming to an end. So I would like you to perhaps, I would ask each and one of you to give a word of conclusion, maybe answer the question, how can we also reconcile action and patience in a world that's going too fast? How to do this? How to reconcile these contradictions in a way? Who wants to start? I think patience doesn't exist in today's emergency. I think this word patience is not adapted. If you are here tonight, it means you know the situation in which the world is and in which our forests are. So I think there's no question about being patient. We shouldn't be patient. All this forest disappearing every minute. We worked on Indonesia, an area where the nickel mines are really destroying, really destroying thousands of square kilometers of forest. In the space of 1 month, you see an entire mountain, for instance, which is deforested. So we can't be patient anymore. We need to act and be fast and act on all levels. So we need this energy. And one NGO, be it Greenpeace, Cœur de Forêt, or Naturevolution, can't reach this objective. We need to be a lot. We need to be an army of lawyers. We need to also do lawsuits, and we need to be active on the field. Of course, the world is going too fast, but patience, to me, is not a good thing. Christophe, what do you think? I understand what you're saying. We worked on nickel mines in New Caledonia as well, and in Egis I had to work on a highway. It's not very positive. But after we cut the trees to build the highway, There was an idea behind, we had to compensate for this. I tried to improve the infrastructure, and now this highway is 25 years old, and I think the infrastructure is useful, but nature also grew next to the highway in 25 years. So of course you need to find a balance between the emergency and this long-term reconstitution. So just to finish on this highway, so what we used to do back then, there was a photographer which would take photos, and that's where this sense of people's representations are important. The trees that grew since then, and these representations are very important. And you need data, of course. You need to have specialists out there. Andrea, what do you think? A lot of things, and we don't have a lot of time. Yes, I will have to try and structure my thoughts. Baptiste Morisot said something in the book which I read again tonight. He said, we're not responsible of how livable the world is. The world was not made by mankind, it was made by all the living creatures in this world. So that's why we all need to be interested in forests, because we need to respect what allows us to live. I would like to say this. You shouldn't believe tomorrow, you should build tomorrow. And I remember this sentence by Hubert Reeves: let's not be pessimistic, let's not be optimistic, let's be determined. And I think this is what our times are calling for us. We need to be determined. Anybody can choose their ways, but anybody can work for this. And there's this super vitality. We need to the bonds between people must be more important than material. Let's be in this bond between human beings. Thank you very much. There will be a lot of things to say. It's a bit frustrating, but thank you. Thank you very much. A few minutes for Q&As, perhaps.
Very much so. We'll take a few questions from the audience, but we are running late. We're running out of time, and we'd like to have yet more questions afterwards. So what shall we do? Well, maybe take a few questions. Well, are there any questions at all in the audience? I mean, we have three great speakers. I mean, it's always difficult to break the ice. So the joke is, since the first question is the toughest to ask, let's start with the second one. Ha, that was a funny joke. But no, there's no first question, no second question. Maybe just as well. We'll put the questions afterwards. That's fine. Well, look, let's say by way of conclusion, we have to act quickly, you have to be determined, you have to wonder at the world, and in a way, that word being not being blind and looking at things jointly, not on one's own. All right, well, so thank you so very much. And this brings this part of the discussion to an end. Many thanks to all four of you for this great moment of exchange. It was great to have you with us. We could talk about representations of the forest. We really didn't have enough time to get into this in any depth at all. But in any way, there may be other opportunities. And we're delighted to work with Naturevolution, Cœur de Forêt. Charlotte herself is there. I don't believe there were any questions, or you had any questions about your own project, or did you? So, in any case, we're delighted to have you here, And we can only pay tribute to your great dedication. Many thanks to Andrea, who kindly agreed to be with us tonight, and she, in a way, raised the discussion to a more lofty heights, looking at forests from a more poetic viewpoint. In any event, we'll now change the stage, and this is the moment we've all been waiting for, especially the students, because this is the award ceremony for the Climate Challenge 2025. So a few words about that. There were 1,270 participants, 283 teams from various walks of life, from as many as 800 universities around the world, and representing 107 nationalities. That's the 4th edition of this challenge, this Students' Challenge. And this year again, we asked students to propose a local project of climate adaptation. And so they came up with great ideas. And the whole point of this challenge is that you look at various aspects, raise awareness, information, overcome disasters, build up and support populations. There were 25 Egis mentors involved, 15 shortlisted teams. And so all of these projects bear witness to a real determination, a real belief in innovation, optimism for tomorrow. There is a way out, and that really gives us heart, and that's why we've decided to repeat the challenge year after year. In any case, we have 4 winners, and we'd like to welcome the 4 winning teams. I ask the 2 members of the jury to join us.
Mais s'il y a un micro, c'est encore mieux pour eux. Je ne sais pas si les micros sont partis.
I don't know where the microphones have gone, but of course, our guests really should have microphones, and so we'll find them in short order. And here they are.
En attendant, je vais poser ma question.
But in the meantime, I have a question myself. As president of the jury, François, can you say a few words about this team-up challenge that you, well, I don't know if you knew it last year, but you certainly joined us this year. Yes, there's a little joke about Parisians, and it's better to have the Parisian newspaper than the real Parisian, because Parisians are not supposed to be nice people. But now we have both. The color supplement of Le Parisien, the newspaper, is about climate change and deforestation. So there you have the weekly supplement of a daily newspaper. The weekly supplement is about what, I mean, it happens to be a coincidence, but I myself was very much taken by this the theme on adaptation, and what we felt when we we had this, we looked at all the applications and the various projects. Okay, it's not the same thing as being in the forest itself, but it was a source of wonderment. We were really impressed with the talent, the sense of purpose of all these, of all the participants, and looking at all this, a bit like Christophe here, having his hands on the ground. And it's true that every day I learn the bad news, droughts and things going on. So when you look at the ground, things are looking pretty grim. But when you raise your sights and you see all these positive projects, you gain hope again. And Françoise, what can you tell us about this edition of the challenge? I believe you were also involved in previous editions. What's special about this year's? Well, in a way, I'm the old-timer here, and I can
Alors d'abord, c'est toujours des journées très denses.
Answer Gilles about this. These are very intensive days. I mean, of course, it's very exciting, all sorts of projects being presented. It's always a great journey across continents. I mean, we have people from all parts of the world, and yet you find similarities. I mean, we have people from Uzbekistan, would you believe, a very distant country, and yet when we decided to vote on the projects, we found that we tend to agree on what was the best projects, and that is the great thing, that such diversity led to always the same conclusions. Now, one good thing is the teams were very well balanced. It used to be just boys or men, and now we have a bit of everything. And that was great news for this year's vintage, as it were. There were boys and girls. I mean, of course, I spent a lot of time teaching. I'm always with young people, but the future is in their hands, isn't it? And so the great thing there is you give these young people a chance to express themselves. These people are creative. They know how to adapt in a way, and their own projects were presented in a very original way. All right. Well, look, we will look at the projects of the RTX team. So you have Eliora, Habib, and Benya from the University of Surabaya University in Indonesia. So these people are very much dedicated to their project, and you find that they can be dedicated and engaged in the environmental cause. So we need also to mention the mentors. They were, of course, behind this, and this is a video presentation of the RTX team.
From Tumpak Sewu Rainfall, Indonesia, my name is Kabir from RTX team. As you know, that synthetic pesticide poisoning human environment and polluting aquatic life. Synthetic pesticides are also less effective use such in the tropical climate such as in Indonesia. In another hand, Kulon Progo Regency produce a lot of agricultural waste that not yet utilized. One of them is red onion peel waste. RTX team convert the agricultural waste to solve the problem. We did small marvel of engineering, that Pesti Zero.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eliora, and I'm also from the RTX team. Alright, so how do you make your Pesti Zero? First, you got to soak your onion peels for 1 to 2 days. You strain it, and then you mix it with kerosene with a concentration of 1%. And then you shake it until it's homogeneous, and voila, it's ready to spray. Now, let's talk about the strength. Well, it is very easy to manufacture the all material from the agricultural waste and also short-lived production time. But we do also have challenges that needs to be tackled, such as shorter lifetime than synthetic pesticides. It was bio-based, and also the fluctuation of the raw material supply. Alright, we actually have the number. We have 3 different treatments: only water, Pesti Zero, and also chemical. So in the synthetic pesticide, we actually have a 20% leaf loss, but in Pesti Zero, we have a 33% leaf gain, which means it works like a magic. It works as a fertilizer, and when we try to spray it on the insects actually die. That means it's also as a pesticide.
Hello, I'm Daniel from RTX team, and I would like to say that our journey is just getting more exciting with Pesti Zero. As you know, we already did mortality rate test between the synthetic pesticide and the Pesti Zero. Synthetic pesticides initially have a fast killing rate, but their efficiency tends to stagnate in the end. However, our product Pesti Zero delivers a slow killing rate with a long-lasting effect, showing a steady and powerful increase in pest mortality. Our journey has 4 big steps consisting of formulation, pilot trial, implementation with farmers in Jakarta, and finally scaling up with investors for sustainable impact. Hopefully, with these small steps, we can empower over 2,000 local farmers in Jakarta. Pesti Zero, zero waste, zero hazard, and eco-hero.
Oui, bravo à eux. Alors, ce projet reçoit le prix spécial.
So this project gets the special prize, the special award, special prize of the jury. We're supposed to have 3 teams, but we like them so much that we had them on top. So you have the special prize for Pesti Zero, that's RTX, and they get each gets 500 euros. And so you have this big check here. I don't know if the RTX people are there with us. At least we'll see their faces. And so that's the check for them, but we need to,
Si jamais, Camille, tu veux... Voilà, exactement, si tu veux bien.
Right. Oh, there they are online.
Donc voilà, là c'est juste pour les voir rapidement.
And so we can take a quick look at them. Sandrine, can you say in a few words what the jury thought of that project? Well, it's a special prize of the jury, and there was a convergence of ideas, and this was a case in point. This was a brilliant project. This is Team Up for Climate, but this is a biodiversity project, and this is really exciting because this issue of adaptation opens up to all sorts of all aspects of environmental matters, and biodiversity is a case in point. And this solution for natural fertilizer could be a source of inspiration for public policies in the future. Anyway, we really like to thank these people. Congratulations, it was really great, and I think you deserve a round of applause. And we'll have a chat with them afterwards. First, we introduce the teams, the winners, and then we can have a conversation. Then now the next project is in Peru. We have Sol Antonella and Nidi from the University Tecnológica in Latin America, and in Ventimiglia there's Vitor Cernas. Eliana Long-Collins and Bois Lange, I believe, are the 2 sponsors. And now we can see the nice pitch of their project.
In Ventanilla, north of Lima, it is an arid and desert area along the Chillon River, where pet farming in the poor management of its waste have generated high levels of pollution. This affects the life of more than 180,000 people. Naturally, the children of the community suffer from respiratory infections, feeling the damage in their health and environment every day. Renacer means to be born a guide to read to life. That is what we want for the river and for the community. To live together in harmony. We are Renacer, a project that seeks to bring life back to the river and is surrounding helping people take better of their land.
We transport organic luster into fertilizer with biofester planted native trees and cultivate from this garden so that people can have fresh food and shade. We also organize workshops and activities so that everybody young and old can unite and learn to care for their community. So far, we have worked with more than 100 children, and we have built a works alliance with schools and community. Have developed prototypes of an app and website for children to learn well, playing and a space where ecological adventures and seal their credit. Our goal is for Ventimiglia to become a place where the river rovers play again. People enjoy healthy food and everyone feels proud and protect their home. We want this idea to grow and reach more places in.
Si el río vuelve a vivir, también la comunidad volverá a florecer.
If the river comes back to life, the community will flourish again.
Si la rivière renaît, la communauté refluira aussi.
There you have it in all 3 languages, French, English and Spanish.
Merci pour Renacer.
So Renacer est
Alors oui, petit cadeau en français
Spanish language
Renacer,
prize,
en fait, reçoit
and Renacer they get third position, third prize, and they also get 500 euros per team member, and they get a pre-boost to incubate the project to the tune of 3,000 euros. And you can see their faces up on the screen. And maybe Françoise can tell us about this project. Yes, the jury, well, we found the charming smiles of these students, but also this project was centered around a river. Earlier on, we talked about Baptiste Morisot in the forest, but Baptiste Morisot wrote not about forests, but also rivers and beavers. Anyway, this was a community closing ranks around their community, around their rivers. And so the idea is one health. If the river is unhealthy, then the children will be unhealthy. So the idea is that there's only one health for the population and nature, and that includes food and air and everything. And we found it was a very convincing project indeed. And so we can show the check. You get 500 euros per team member, and it would be nice to have these girls up on the screen. So congratulations to Renacer. It was great.
Merci, François.
Great word of thanks. And now, and we'll see you shortly afterwards. And now we have Sustenaqua. Now, these people come from Bangalore, and you have three doctors, Dr. Subashri, Dr. Prayuka, and Dr. Ashita. They come from the University of Gandhinagar, but you also have one person from Egis. So let's take a look at the pitch.
We are Sustenaqua, born from the belief that wastewater can be turned into climate action. Our journey began in Bangalore, where we lived. We saw sewage flowing through drains while families queued for tanker water. Experiencing both sides showed us change was urgent. Each day, Bangalore produces 1,400 million liters of sewage, yet over half of them goes unused. At the same time, thousands of diesel tankers crisscross the city, adding hundreds of tons of CO2. We needed one place to start, and Whitefield was our clear choice. Polluted lakes, homes, IT parks dependent on tanker water, and treatment plant nearby lying idle. It was the perfect site to show reuse in action. That vision became Sustenaqua, a decentralized system linking treatment plants with communities through clean EV logistics, recovering water and cutting emissions.
Our model directly engages two primary groups, commercial establishments and residential units. For commercial players, we bring a cost reduction, reliable water supply, energy recovery and ESG incentives along with groundwater offsetting. For residential units, we ensure water sale revenue, sludge monetization, ESG certification, and most importantly, a sense of community ownership. For commercial users like IT parks and cooling towers, we cut dependence on expensive tanker, and for residents, we convert what was seen as waste into revenue. Our roadmap is designed for structured impact over 1 year. From May to June 25, we focused on pilot site finalization, and by the end of 25, we begin community sensitization. And finally, by March 2026, we complete impact valuation and audits. None of this works in isolation. Sustenaqua thrives on partnerships. We are collaborating with IIT Madras, Borda, TIDE, BBMP, Well Labs, and local farmer organizations. This mix of academia, NGOs, government bodies, and communities ensure that our pilot is not just technically sound, but also socially rooted.
In this May 2025, Sustenaqua launches its Whitefield pilot with a decisive roadmap, each benchmark tied to measurable indicators. This performance will be tracked through the Sustenaqua score, a composite index that quantifies water recovery, carbon abatement, revenue generation, quality assurance, and community adoption. Our projected outcomes are transformative. Over 200 tons of carbon dioxide mitigated annually, safe use of wastewater for construction, cooling and green spaces, recovery of valuable byproducts like compost and biogas, and 10 to 15% reduction in household and industrial water costs, all achieved by leveraging existing infrastructure and electrified fleets. This is not just a pilot, it is a replicable blueprint, scalable across 100 wards in urban Bangalore and adaptable to urban centers nationwide. It aligns with whatever the government in India has been thriving for. Critically, we also integrate a new part of Sustain Aqua, antimicrobial resistance surveillance, the first reuse model in India of its kind to do so, linking wastewater loops with public health security, uniting climate resilience with that of health resilience. Our vision is clear: to reposition wastewater as a circular asset. With your support, Bangalore can stand as the example of a climate-resilient, future-ready India, recovering resources, reimagining waste, and recharging our cities. You will find all the useful links in the scanner. Thank you.
Well, congratulations to Sustain Aqua. They take second prize. In Sustain Aqua, they take second prize. And it's 750 euros per team member, and they also get a pre-boost to incubate their product. So if they see it through and they are well underway to do just that, then there will be 4,000 euros to incubate their product. And maybe Sandrine can say a few words about that team of young women and tell us what help them convince the jury. Well, Asita, Payukta, and Ayushi, I think I got this right. Anyway, what really was exciting here, you have three women, three passionate women. These are very rigorous, very well-structured. They are scientists. I mean, they're doctors, and they showed not just the technical aspect, the economic soundness. It's a very thorough project, and it was well thought out. A project that can be replicated and scaled up. 2025 is the year of the water, and so a project on water was highly iconic. In any case, congratulations to all three. And these are three brilliant scientific women. We can only applaud this work on the wastewater treatment. Okay, so very good. And this takes us to the top part of the podium, the big winners of this challenge, Team Up for Climate. It is my pleasure to welcome here in this room the team that takes first prize, and that's the Aral team. Please welcome the two winners.
Alors, bienvenue.
Welcome.
Merci. Alors, l'équipe est composée.
So, as you can see, you have two young Uzbek graduates. You can't tell, but they are Dilshotbek.
Dilbaev, c'est ça? C'est bon. Et Donyorjon.
And Donyorjon. Suyenboev.
Donc bravo.
Well, congratulations. These two young men come from Webster University in Tashkent, and the Tashkent Finance Institute. They have mentors, one of whom is here tonight, and they're probably very proud, they should be, Etienne de Vomas and Sarah Abouzaina. So congratulations to all. And maybe you can say a few words about your own project and give us a pitch. We're all ears.
We have a presentation. So did you know that the collapse of RLC is training the health crisis? Me, as Dilshotbek, and my teammate and friend Donyor, we represent the RL team. Today, we're going to show the project, which was born in my home, Karakalpakstan, the western part of Uzbekistan. And in this the drying of RLC has caused the crisis. So our solution is low cost and innovative, which aims to protect the people and raise the awareness through the three streams. So since 1960, the over-irrigation of cotton fields has caused the drying up of the RLC, leaving behind the toxic salt desert. In Pakistan, sandstorms carry this poison into our lungs, causing the bronchial asthma and chronic bronchitis 4 and 5 times higher than other cities, like Tashkent and Samarkand. So we are here not to dwell on the problem, we are here to offer the solution.
So and our three-stream approach, you need students, teachers, and the farmers. So our first stream is called Clean the Air. The air like a paint, which works like a forest, cleans the air and protects children from the air pollution. And second stream, which is called Restore the Land. There, these saxaul trees, stabilize the soil, block the dust and block the dust. And the third stream, which is called Protect the People, promotes the healthcare campaigns with the pulmonologist Dr. Ismailova, who helps to encourage the checkups and the awareness sessions. So these simple and very low-cost steps will have a huge and powerful impact. So and our beginning point is village Kerdar, which seems to be very hopeless, and but hopefully after our projects will gain very huge spark in their lives. So we will plant the trees in a green perimeter to block the dust. We will paint the mural on a wall of the school to clean the air, and we will host the medical checkups and awareness sessions for increasing the awareness in the kindergarten. So just with $7,500, we will be able to gather and mobilize the people, the locals, the volunteers around for a great change.
Yeah, and Kerdar, just to start, success here will enable us to expand to more villages and cities, small cities, within the 2 years. And so for sure with the collaboration with the government, NGOs, and media. So our motto is actions speak louder than the words. And we are here to grow our impact more. So we want to say thank you for the Egis Foundation for believing in our vision.
So and thank you very much for you all and for your attention, and join us in realizing the hope into the action. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so very much to both of you. And maybe, well, there were subtitles on the screen, but nobody was listening to the French translation. Oh well, at least there were subtitles. Anyway, Errol takes first prize, but also they take the prize of Egis employees, because here you will be right up in the limelight, as it were, because there was the Egis employees were also consulted. There was a popular vote, as it were, amongst the employees. Etienne, by the way, is the mentor. Please, Etienne, stay with us. And so this also got the prize of the Egis employees. So 2 prizes for Aral. The first, they take first prize, but as I said, the vote of Egis employees. So full marks there. Congratulations. And maybe François can say a few words about yes. When we voted, we didn't know. It was afterwards that we found that the Egis employees had also chosen this Aral project. We found this was a very thorough project, and also the fact that they were geared towards children. When they gave us their pitch, I had to look up Google Maps to find where their village was located, and I thought it was shocking, but just looking at the image of Google Maps, you think this can't happen. You get the feeling that there's no hope, and they tell us, no, there's hope. We have solutions. We'll be working, and we believe in this. And so there you are. They are very much involved. And so again, congratulations all round. All right then. So they walk away with this prize. This award, and of course, as you said, they're very much involved in the pre-boost, and that should come in shortly with an additional 7,000 euros, and that will subsidize this project in which we all believe. I mean, this is one of the worst ecological disasters of the past 20 years, and they certainly deserve our support. And it's a shame. I mean, it's really it's a disgrace that this should go unspoken. It's one of the forgotten scandals of the century. So many thanks for your fine work. And now let's have everybody up on the screen so that all winners, whether they're here in the room or online, but no, don't please go back. We want everybody up on stage. And maybe we'll ask questions. Anyway, first we'll have to connect and try and see if we can have a Zoom connection or a Skype connection with everyone. Can we have all the people online? Please, here we have the Indian team, Sustain Aqua. But what about the others? Yes, I can see other faces. Antonella is there from Renacer. What about the RTX people? Are they there as well? Yes, there they are. And so we have a gallery. I mean, can we ask questions, or can the audience ask questions? Are there any questions at all from the audience? I'm sure you have. You're brimming with questions for these winners. I have a question, says someone from the audience. Our friends here, I mean, these young winners, how did their families respond? I mean, they were chosen. That must have been quite a conversation. Maybe their friends and relatives were excited about this. I mean, in their surroundings, in their friends and families, what was the response? Please, can you hear us, by the way? Is the translation coming through? Yes, great. So, yes, do speak and let us know. And you can speak in either English or Spanish. We'll be able to understand. But
mics on, please.
Yes, you have to switch on your mics, and then you can say a few words. Please switch on your mics. I mean, we can see you. You're beautiful. We would like to hear you. Did you hear the question? I mean, how did your friends and relatives respond to your success when you won the prize? What was the response?
So maybe I need a translator.
Yes, the translator is here.
Carine, we got the question. Can we answer?
So I can repeat the question, no problem. What is the reaction of your family and your friends? Because
yes,
they told about your success, of course.
Yes, so Sustain Aqua is here. Hello from India to everybody. So most of our siblings and parents are watching it on YouTube live. So as unbelievable it is for us, it is for them as well. And maybe this is the beginning of something so beautiful. We wanted to share it with you all and with our parents. And these are blessings that we do not keep account of. Only good memories from here on. Thank you to Egis Foundation.
Thank you. Est-ce qu'on peut avoir une traduction? Oui, pour que les Français puissent comprendre, parce que certains ne comprennent pas. Ah, d'accord, très bien. Oui, ok. Allez-y. Ah, ok. Bon, alors, vous pouvez pas le traduire ou c'est nous qui traduisons? La prochaine. Ok. Bon, j'espère que vous avez tous compris parler anglais. Ça va être difficile. Est-ce que vous avez d'autres questions pour ces équipes?
Do you have other questions for the teams?
Juste, merci. J'arrive. Merci.
Merci. Bonsoir.
Good evening.
Je viens de la République démocratique du Congo.
I hail from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and there's the great national park of Virunga. But I have a question for everyone. The first question, and what was the trigger? What prompted you to start the project in the first place? What gave you the impulse to start the project? I mean, we saw sick children, people with pulmonary infections, but maybe amongst your friends and relatives, did you have people close to you who had health problems because of this degraded environment? Because of climate change?
Merci beaucoup.
Well, yes, thank you.
C'est bon, vous avez entendu
did you hear the question? Has anybody heard the question?
Est-ce que quelqu'un veut répondre?
And does anyone wish to answer? I can see Subashri would like to say something again.
Est-ce que c'était pour tout à l'heure?
Or was it for the other question?
Yes, no, it was for this question only.
Okay. Quelqu'un veut répondre?
Oh, who would
Am
like
I
to...
audible to the audience?
Yes.
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
Yes, so Sustain Aqua was basically built when three of us were living in the city of Bangalore, which is the greatest metropolitan city in India, in our country for that matter. And when you have all the money, all the resources, you live in big buildings and do not have drinking water to drink, you have diseases because of the water that you intake. It strikes something in you because we do not answer to issues until it affects us directly. So it did. We understood that we are now part of the problem, and we somehow had the power and the support to create a solution for this. It did not start as something that would come down to people in Paris watching this as a business proposition, a value proposition. We just started as an idea which was discussed in a hostel room, and today it has become something that feels very possible. Today we discuss this with stakeholders, we apply to grants, and we propose ourselves as businesswomen today. So yeah, that was just a solution that a problem was impacting us and we wanted to do something about it, and it was about water. It was about water in one of the cities that had everything. There are cities that do not count close to it. So we know that if we work well here, we can take it all over the country. We are already before a global audience, so we always seek help, we always seek support. You will find a QR scanner in our presentation. There's collaboration, there's advice, that anything that comes to you, please help us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Subashri. Merci. Alors, je ne sais pas si vous avez réussi à tout noter. Voilà, c'était long. Alors, ça devrait fonctionner. Allez-y.
Oui, donc nous venons d'une très grande zone métropolitaine en Inde, la région de Bangalore, et en effet, il y avait un problème qui touchait notre région. C'était à cause de notamment l'urbanisation, les maladies qui étaient dues à la mauvaise qualité de l'eau. Et donc on a voulu essayer de régler ce problème. On a travaillé sur le sujet. Et on a l'impression que ça devient possible parce qu'on est en discussion avec beaucoup de parties prenantes, on a candidaté à beaucoup de bourses. Donc oui, pour répondre à votre question, c'était un problème qui nous impactait directement par rapport à l'eau, et maintenant on a besoin de tout votre soutien et on va essayer d'y arriver.
Merci beaucoup. It's on. Yeah, it was supposed to work.
So yeah, so I want to answer for the first question. Is about the motivation. We will say So I think the motivation is some kind of the domino effect, the chain. So it's coming from the self-realization, what is happening. So firstly, you need to ask the questions for you, what is happening around you. And the second, then it will motivate you to do the actions. Here, I want to say that we didn't lose the RLC just in one day. It happened like 30 years. And we're always saying that we need to learn on our mistakes, but we cannot right now. We lost it. And what we have is to adapt and make the future for the kids much better than it is right now. I think I answered the question.
Yeah, you did. Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous traduire ça?
Oui, donc pour vous répondre, à la conservation, c'est un peu comme un effet domino. D'abord, il faut comprendre ce qui se passe autour de nous, et après l'étape de la compréhension, en deuxième lieu, il y a l'étape de l'action. Et je veux bien vous dire que nous n'avons pas perdu la mer d'Aral en un jour. C'est un processus qui s'est étalé sur une trentaine d'années. Et maintenant, il faut vivre avec ce résultat et nous adapter pour l'avenir, pour avoir un avenir meilleur pour nos enfants.
Merci. Merci pour cette traduction et merci pour cette réponse. Est-ce que Renasser ou RTX veut répondre aussi à cette question?
Hello?
Ahora.
My voice is audible? Okay.
Yes.
I will answer the first and second question. Personally, I have the several impact about the climate hazard. One of the worst in my country is increases of the sea level. So we in Surabaya and Jakarta who live in the near of beach, our houses is flooding by seawater, and this one is getting worse and getting worse each year. This is one of impact the ice melting in the North and South Pole. And the second hazard is the pollution in the groundwater. Most of us take the water as our need from the deep well. And the climate hazard impact us with the more hard, so we going to more deep for the ground well, and the water quality is getting worse year by year. And of course, the last hazard that we already impacted is the basic of our idea, that is the pollution. In the farmer. Our farmer getting the instability of weather. We don't have the structural or the rain weather and dry weather. This is really hard to us to determine when it's rain and or when it's the dry season. So we create the PestiZero that have the withstand with the rainwater, even the weather is not stabilized. That is one. This is the basic motivation for us, the RTX team, to create the PestiZero as our idea. Thank you.
Donc, pour vous répondre, nous avons un grand problème en Indonésie qui est l'augmentation du niveau de la mer, ce qui impacte notamment la région de Jakarta avec des épisodes d'inondation par l'eau de mer de plus en plus fréquents. Et il y a aussi la question de la pollution de l'eau potable, car la qualité de l'eau empire d'année en année. Et également des aléas climatiques avec des épisodes de sécheresse et de l'autre côté des épisodes pluvieux intenses. C'est un climat qui manque de stabilité, c'est ce qui nous a aussi poussé chez RTX à faire notre projet.
Merci. Merci beaucoup. Alors, je me posais la question, est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions justement dans la... Ah oui, alors je vais donner la parole, pardon, j'ai carambolage.
Excusez-moi, c'était pas une question.
No, it's not really a question at all. But I would like to say something about Renacer. Renacer, you can also speak in Spanish. Well, they'll come right after this. But the Renacer people, we can speak Spanish and then we'll translate from. So. Okay, so just so that they know that they can also speak Spanish. Oh, right, but are there other questions now?
En français, du coup?
Oui, en français, puisque...
You can put the question in French that's being translated.
Pour les Espagnols. Alors peut-être...
First you should ask the question in...
Alors vas-y,
No, it's not for the Spanish speakers, but for the RTX people, I was wondering how did you know that onion skins could act as pesticides? Was that like an old wives' recipe? Did you read it somewhere? Where do you know this? That's an excellent question indeed. How did you know about onion skins?
Did you hear the question, RTX? Habib and Eliora? Do you want to say something?
Have you heard the question about onion skins?
We do. So is my voice audible to everyone?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
All right, perfect. So basically in our team, I'm from biology and my friends are from chemical engineering. So I think we got the basis of the science itself, but we actually tested it out. We tried a couple of pests and then we sprayed the onions to the pest, and actually it helps killing the pest. That's the actual basis why we use it as pesticide. And moreover, since it's organic, it's also good as a fertilizer. So we were thinking, why not just give both? That's the actual basis of the science that we use. And when we tried out ourselves for the second time, we use tomato plants. Sorry, is it tomato? I forgot. We tried it on the leaves and we actually find a very good results, and that's why we're very confident to say, okay, it works as a fertilizer and also it works as a pesticide, like that. It doesn't degrade the leaves itself, but it keeps the pest away from the leaves, like that. We actually tried another chemical pesticide, and the result was there was chemical necrosis alongside with the leaves. And when we compared it to what we tried to make, the Pestizero, it doesn't damage the leaf, but the chemical pesticide, it damages the leaf. So I think a good result has been taken away from our experience. Oh, and actually, onion peel is very easy to find in Indonesia. That's why we try to take it from there. Since there's a lot of waste, onion peel waste, you can see it in the market, in traditional markets. It's very easy to get a bunch of onion peel. So we try to work things out, try to make it more sustainable as well.
Thank you, Eliora. Merci.
Alors, dans notre équipe, il y avait des gens de différents parcours. Moi, j'étais plutôt un parcours dans la biologie, d'autres dans la chimie. Et on savait, d'après les expériences, que les épluchures d'oignons avaient une valeur de pesticides, mais aussi d'engrais. Et comme c'est bio, on a voulu essayer d'associer ces deux propriétés. Et on a trouvé de très bons résultats. On a même fait des essais aussi avec des épluchures de tomates qui sont plutôt prometteurs. On a également vu qui était l'avantage des épluchures d'oignons par rapport aux pesticides chimiques, c'est qu'ils n'endommageaient pas les feuilles des plantes, ce qui était le cas en revanche des pesticides chimiques. Il y a aussi le fait que les épluchures d'oignons sont très faciles à trouver en Indonésie, notamment dans les marchés traditionnels, et donc c'était assez facile de s'en procurer. Voilà.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, il y aurait peut-être une toute dernière question pour Renasser, du coup. Renasser, est-ce que vous pouvez nous dire, en fait, si vous avez motivé
Renasser, can you tell us what prompted you to involve the entire community in your project? What was the inspiration to... we'll have a translation in Spanish. Just listen to this.
Sí, Renasser, ¿qué les motivó a involucrar a toda la comunidad en este proyecto?
¿Sí? Buenas a todos. A partir de las capacitaciones que tuvimos con ABCF, pudimos implementar y ver de cerca lo que es la crianza y ver también las necesidades de la comunidad. Esto vimos la permanencia de basura en el río Chillón, el cual afectaba también lo que es a los niños y a los jóvenes de la comunidad. En conjunto con la malcrianza de cerdos, es lo que nos hizo como nosotros, emprendedores de Ventanilla y también jóvenes estudiantes, poder ver una idea, una solución para que esta generación no siga padeciendo de enfermedades. Por eso nace Renascer. Renascer, volver a nacer, como dice en español, que ayuda a las nuevas generaciones de niños, jóvenes y madres de familia y toda la comunidad a llevar esa semilla de fe para que el río Chillón sea florecido y que toda la mentalidad de poder contaminar ya no sea con todos los jóvenes, ¿no? Entonces, eso es lo que lleva a Renascer, capacitaciones, biohuertos, para que sacar provecho a la basura que botan las comunidades y reutilizarlos para así evitar esta contaminación. Gracias.
Vous battez pour vous traduire, c'est ça?
Oui, donc on a voulu partir des déchets que produisait notre communauté pour aider donc les jeunes et pour aussi éviter que les nouvelles générations n'aient les maladies qu'ont eu d'autres générations. D'où ce nom que nous avons donné, donc renaître.
The name Renascer, meaning reborn, enabling the young generation to be born again, but also for the river to be born again, to change mentalities, start on a fresh start, changing mentalities and clean up the water by using and recycling the waste. All right, well, many thanks. Many thanks and many thanks for being with us. Would like to add something, Aral? I mean, you are the big winners. You should have the final say. Would you like to say something by way of conclusion?
Any more?
Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. So just a word to conclude. Merci.
We would just like to thank you everyone for believing in our idea, for supporting it, and for having us here. Thank you very much.
I just want to add, we are very thankful to our mentors, Etienne and Sarah. They spent the nights polishing our presentation and helping us with everything. We're very grateful for our mentors, Egis Foundation, juries, and to all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
Many thanks, and again, congratulations to all. This year we can only salute your commitment. This was great work, and by way of conclusion, let me just say one last thing. Right now, we're trying to grow our Team Up community, so please stay with us for the next few years. We'd like to follow you from year to year to see how your projects grow. I mean, we're quite small and tiny now, but we'll grow with you. We'll scale up the community, and many thanks. And the time has come for us to say goodnight. There are refreshments being served. Some of you are very thirsty. It was great hearing you. Some people would have had to have longer explanations, but still, we learned an awful lot.
intervention.
And many thanks for these very fruitful discussions and for being here.
Merci aux interprètes, aussi à la régie technique, à Emmanuel qui est venu prêter main forte, et à Virgilio.
Virgilio, many thanks for your help.
Je vous invite maintenant
and so the time has come for us
plus informel.
for a more congenial, informal moment. We can have a drink and the people online can just watch us.